Has Christian Benford done enough to win the job over Kyer Elam and Dane Jackson? That's what we're going to examine in today's Cover 1 Film Room feature. Let's start off with his tackling. I think he's a pretty good tackler. He's willing to come down and make the tackle as a forced defender versus these type of runs. On this play, the Colts run zone away from him. Pittman, the wide receiver, push cracks to the safety. Benford senses the cutback, and he comes down and makes a tackle. Good wrap up there, right near the logo. He reads these runs really quickly, especially when he's to the tight end side, the closed side of the formation here. See a couple tight ends with the ball on the left hash. As they block down and try to run duo, a play that really targets corners and wants to get the running back one-on-one with a corner. He's not afraid to fill, come downhill, and help make the tackle. He does that routinely. He is not afraid to come downhill, make the tackle at or near the line of scrimmage. Here's another one against the Steelers. Red zone. Close side of the formation. Once again, as those guys block down and get washed down, he's aggressive. He doesn't allow the running back to dictate the situation here. Wrap with a great job from the backside as well. So the Bills get some great work from the defensive backs on this play at pinning the run in and not allowing the running back to bounce it outside. You gotta love the discipline on this play from Benford to the bottom of the screen. It looks like the Bears and Justin Fields are trying to run a screen to the top. The receivers screw up their assignment, but Benford is disciplined. He stays home and he's able to wrap up the elusive quarterback, one of the more elusive quarterbacks in the league. Watch again. It looks like Fields wants to throw it to one of the receivers. There's no one to throw it to. And Benford just reads it, stays home, and then watch him snag that leg and just hold on while his teammates rally to the ball. Great work, great discipline, and a strong tackle on a very elusive quarterback. One of my favorite traits of Benford are his quiet, calm feet at the line of scrimmage, whether he's in zone or man, whether he's in press technique, soft press technique. He does not waste much footwork at the line of scrimmage. Initially, you'll see him, a little step kick right here, but his base is still under him. His shoulders are over the top of his knees and toes. So when he needs to open, boom, he can quickly do it and get into the hip pocket of the wide receiver. That allows him to stay in phase, especially when guys want to push vertically. Calm, efficient feet are really what separate him when he's at the line of scrimmage versus Kyer Elam. And even Trey White sometimes. Trey gets a little antsy at the line of scrimmage, and you'll see him step forward at times. But Butler, the DB coach for the Bills, loves calm, quiet feet, efficient footwork at the line of scrimmage like you see here. Once again, wide receiver declares that outside route. What does Benford do? Open up. No wasted footwork. Transitions immediately. Gets in phase immediately. Stays over the top shoulder of that wide receiver and rides him to the sideline. A lot going on in this play against the Bears. Benford's to the top of the screen. Does a great job of connecting to the wide receiver and staying connected throughout the entire play. But let's look at the alignment of the wide receiver. Initially, it's very tight to the formation, and usually that signals they're trying to tighten him so they can run some type of outbreaking route, whether it's a 90-degree cut or even a 45-degree cut to the corner. Benford knows on the weak side of this formation, he's in man coverage, so is the linebacker underneath him, but he has help essentially in the post. So as that receiver is getting vertical, you see Benford play the low shoulder, play the low hip. Essentially, he is on the back half of this wide receiver, so he is playing the back half, and he's doing that because if that receiver is running that outbreaking route, this allows him to stay in advantageous leverage and transition with that route as it breaks to the boundary. Now, think about it this way. If he was on the high side or high shoulder of this wide receiver and playing up there, when that receiver made that cut to the boundary, he would have to almost like pirouette and flip his hips to get back in phase and run to the boundary with the wide receiver. So this allows him to stay in phase with the receiver as he's getting vertically because he's got post help, but allows him to transition smoothly if that receiver breaks out. So that receiver understands, okay, he's got pretty good leverage on me, so I can't run that corner route. So he converts his route to a curl right at the goal line, and Benford is there to shut it down. Quarterback is under duress. He tries throwing it to the end zone, and Neal is there for the incompletion. So a very good understanding of angles and calculating and processing leverage and where his help is and how to best and most efficiently cover a route and cover a receiver down the field. Phenomenal route recognition by Benford on this play from the slot. Great positioning by him as that wide receiver tries running the over route. Initially, the receiver gets inside leverage. You see the transition. He connects. Lightly has his hand on the back of the wide receiver, but not grabbing, just keeping his hand there. And as that wide receiver kind of snaps that route off to kind of flatten it this way to separate, watch him close on that outside shoulder. So this shoulder, the left shoulder of that wide receiver, watch him attack that and flatten to be right in position if the ball were to be thrown. So given this positioning, if this quarterback, Justin Fields, were to throw it to this over route, he's going to have to drop it in the bucket up and over the top of the wide receiver, maybe even to the front pylon, and have the receiver run to that area and have the ball drop in over the top of Benford, just because that coverage is so spectacular. Here it is from the end zone angle, and you can get a better look at the angle that he has on that wide receiver. Once again, not grabbing, just the hand on the back. And as soon as that wide receiver kind of pulls that shoulder away, pulls that right shoulder away, you see him transition and get his hand on that left hip and flatten with the wide receiver there. Good work by Benford on this man coverage play. Calm, cool, and collective at the line of scrimmage on this play, top of the screen. Connects very early during the release phase and then just carries the wide receiver up the sideline. Bills showing a single high safety look. Both Taron Johnson and Benford to the top of the screen are giving the outside releases here. They're pushing those guys outside toward the boundary with Poyer in the post by himself. And just look at him connect to the wide receiver. Near hand jam, outside release from that wide receiver. Inside hand jam right there. Transition. Again, stay on that high shoulder, that right shoulder. Almost a double move right near the sticks by that wide receiver. But look at how Benford suffocates this route and doesn't allow the wide receiver to dictate the red line and allow him to leave space for the quarterback to drop this pass in. Just great work from Benford on this vertical route against the Steelers. Very technical, allows that outside leverage, and then suffocates a route down the field. Similar type leverage and positioning by Benford to the top of the screen, and Elam for that matter to the bottom. Immediately inside leverage, you see that inside hand jam. He wants to stymie any type of in-breaking route or inside release. So he punches that inside shoulder of that wide receiver, forcing him to go outside. He does go outside and he just closes it down. And Neal makes a play at the catch point. So he's very good, again, at the line of scrimmage. When you need him to be physical and press and punch, he does a good job of doing that. Both he and Elam on this play take that inside leverage. They want to funnel those wide receivers on the outside, keep them out there. And on this play, the Steelers try isolating Siran Neal. Neal makes a play at the catch point. This play against the Colts is probably the only blemish on his resume from this preseason. He gets called for the flag here. The receiver still catches it on the back end. I think it's an 18-yard gain, but I actually like this coverage. I don't like the call on this play. But prior to the snap, look at him messing with the quarterback a little bit. Showing off, then pressing, then kind of showing like he's going to bail again. But he's in man coverage. And once again, he's physical. He connects and attaches to the wide receiver and stays connected the entire time. One would say maybe almost to a fault, but this is a pretty good job of reading the route and disrupting the timing of a play. Unfortunately for the Bills, the flag is thrown and the pass is completed in the second and or third phase of this play. But this is the type of disruption the Bills need in certain situations versus certain teams up near the line of scrimmage with their cornerbacks, like we wish we would have seen against the Bengals, disrupting the timing of those quick passing games. And I thought Benford did a great job on this play. Unfortunately, the Colts still completed it. This is what I like about Benford's game, his versatility. He's very, very good, whether it's zone or man coverage, but within each of those categories, of coverage. So if he's in man coverage, he can do it in press, soft press, but he also can do it in off coverage. And that's what the Bills are in on this play. They're in man coverage, but he's in off coverage. He plays with that inside leverage, again, senses the break from the wide receiver, and then drives on it. You see there's not much wasted movement at the top of that break when he is trying to drive downhill, and he's in position on the wide receiver. Now the ball is thrown errantly because of the pressure from Dorian Williams, but this is very good man coverage and break by Benford here against the Steelers wide receiver. 3rd and long on this play against the Bears and wide receiver DJ Moore. Bills showed too high prior to the snap. Very good coverage by Benford down the field on a talented wide receiver. Post snap, though, the Bills go from a too high to a single high look. They're running cover 1 lurk, cover 1 robber. Poyer's dropping down. You see Micah Hyde spinning to the post. So that means that Benford is all alone on this slot fade by the wide receiver. Does a great job of connecting immediately, and that's made possible because that wide receiver is on the line of scrimmage. 2-hand jam, move those hips, move those feet. He senses that slot fade, he connects, and then again, look at him stay over the top of that wide receiver. And as that wide receiver is running that slot fade and he looks back right there, what happens? Benford gets his hands on the guy, chest to chest. He looks back for the ball. And so he's right there at the catch point. As he rides DJ Moore towards the boundary, he's able to make a play on the ball. This is fantastic coverage versus a starting wide receiver in the NFL from the slot position, a position he doesn't play. Great read of the route, 2-hand jam, good technique, chest to chest, eyes up as a wide receiver looks up, and then go make a play on the ball. Great work in man coverage against a slot fade and a starting receiver for the Chicago Bears. On to some zone coverage clips from Benford. This is his bread and butter. This is what he did a lot of in college. And you can see how he's able to calculate angles and how he understands routes from zone coverage looks. This is simply cover 3, but the Bills aren't a spot drop team. So they're not keeping him out wide, having him play that deep third. No. They're having him squeeze the outermost wide receiver here, the number 1. And given that alignment from that wide receiver, he understands that more than likely this wide receiver from that alignment is tight because he's undersized and he's more than likely going to be running some type of out-breaking route, whether it's a 90-degree cut or a 45-degree cut to the corner. So instead of playing that high shoulder like you have seen him do in several of these clips, he plays the low shoulder and he stays underneath him. Because if he's on the high side of the wide receiver, if he's more up here on this shoulder, this wide receiver can hit that cut to the boundary, and it would be a much more difficult transition for him to turn with the wide receiver and flip his hips to stay in phase. So he plays the low shoulder, plays the low hip, and as that wide receiver breaks to the corner, he is right under it. There's no way the ball's going to him. He always does a good job of spacing routes and route combinations, especially from these too high, cover 2, Tampa 2 type looks. Does a great job of maintaining that outside leverage. You see him maintain that outside leverage, open up, hinge to the quarterback, which means he's opening up, keeping his eyes on the quarterback, and it allows him to keep his eyes or peripheral on the wide receiver that is out wide. That wide receiver is running to the flats, so now with that half roll action, he has to go ahead and take away the short underneath wide receiver on the play. He does, so the quarterback has to look to another option, and as he does, Saran Neal is there to break up the pass. Here's another cover 2, Tampa 2 type coverage from the Bills. Benford is very calm at the line of scrimmage and does a great job of zoning in on the next threat that could enter his zone. This is a 2x2 set, so 2 receivers to the top of the screen and 2 to the bottom. Running back is right here to the short side of the field. Because of the defensive call, Benford gets his hands on the receiver, funnels him outside, but his eyes are looking for the next possible threat in his area. And that could be the tight end right here running an out route, or maybe it's a running back coming across and running out there. His eyes are on the quarterback, but he's watching and looking for any threats that could come out to his area. Now, none of them do, but look at him space those routes. Spaces it perfectly. There's no way that Fields can go to that wide receiver up the sideline. That would be quite the throw and honey hole shot. He's under duress. He escapes the pocket, and then the Bills are able to rally to the ball. Off zone coverage from Benford on this play versus the Colts. Once again, disrupting the quick game, but this time not from man coverage or press coverage, from off coverage. Look at how he maintains the leverage of this play on this speed out. And that's where the quarterback wants to go with the ball. But because of the leverage of Benford and his eyes being on the quarterback, he doesn't even have to open up. You can see him just kind of laterally shuffle right over left, right over left. Doesn't really open and drive on it. This is the coverage by Benford working in combination, complementing the pass rush from Tim Settle and Boogie Basham. Benford is so good at processing pre to post snap, the route of the wide receiver, the route combinations, and the next route that could be a threat versus the coverage. Bills are in zone coverage here. Late motion from the Bears. You can see this receiver is not working up the field. He's kind of widening Benford out. He wants to get Benford turned around because they're trying to work the ball to the running back on a Texas route. So you see this Texas route over the middle from the running back. But the Bills are in good shape on this play because they have an in and out coverage between Dotson and Klein here. So obviously if the running back were to stay outside, Klein's probably going to jump on that route. As the running back goes inside, that's Dotson's guy, and that's what happens on this play. But Benford's spacing and ability to attach to the wide receiver who's going out wide, doesn't even have to open up, gets his hands on the guy, but his eyes are still on the quarterback. So even though the ball goes inside, if the ball were to stay out here now to the running back, sure, Klein would be driving on it, but Benford would still be in position to close out the boundary here because of the positioning, spacing, his ability to connect to the wide receiver here and keep his eyes on the quarterback, and peripheral threats that may enter his zone. Benford puts it all together on this cover 2, Tampa 2 type call against the Steelers on 3rd and long. Trips bunch set to his side. He jumps outside, takes outside leverage, carries the wide receiver, but keeps his eyes inside on any peripheral threats. Eyes are on the quarterback. And as the Steelers try to slip out this running back, he's there to make the tackle, to force 4th down. Just great work on the snap. He is gaining depth with his eyes on the quarterback and the other threats. And he's taking away this outbreaking route right here while still paying attention to any other threats that could come into his area. And as soon as a quarterback commits to the running back, he puts his foot in the ground, comes upfield, and makes a tackle to force 4th down. I think of all the challengers to unseat Dane Jackson as starting cornerback across from Trey White, I think it has to be Christian Benford. I thought he's had a great preseason. He offers a lot of the same reliability and consistency that Dane brings to the table, but when the Bills and Sean McDermott want to go to more man coverage, his technique has come a long way at the line of scrimmage. Benford does a great job at the line of scrimmage of playing with calm, quiet feet. There's very little wasted movement at the line of scrimmage, whether he's in press or soft press coverage, but his hand technique is really good as well. Whether it's a one or two-handed punch, he does a great job of using his hands to maintain leverage or gain leverage at the line of scrimmage during the release phase or drive phase of a route. But he also does a great job of attaching and connecting to a wide receiver early in a route and staying connected as they progress down the field. He offers a really good balance. He's kind of like the best of both worlds between Dane Jackson and Kaiir Elam. I think if there's one guy that could really challenge Dane Jackson as that starter for week 1, I think Christian Benford has made the case this preseason.